The God Experiment by Matt Richardson. Part 3. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to watch 7 lives fall apart on camera? Picture yourself on a train ride over a mountain covered in ice. You can hear the avalanche. A monotonous rumble of shifting rocks and billowing snow overloads the cold air. That noise can only mean one thing, right? You are sure death is coming, but no one in the carriage screams. No one is crying. Instead, it's calm and quiet, right up to the end. Subject 003 was a transgender male named Courtney. According to our biography, the participant stood 5 feet 6 inches. He weighed 150 pounds. In the photograph, dark unblemished skin met stylish black hair shaved short on one side. Courtney was in a relationship with a female, but the happy couple had not moved in together. I considered camera placement to be ideal inside the cramped studio apartment. From an early age, Courtney exhibited clear signs that birth did not match the right body. Early onset identity crisis led to complexities including depression and anxiety that went untreated throughout the teenage years. The madness ended when medical professionals took corrective measures to implement a lifelong dream. He worked a high-paying job in the healthcare industry and held a padded HSA to boot. He paid for the whole procedure himself. Even still, Courtney's parents ceased all communication. That fact haunted him. Courtney never considered himself religious. Survey results indicated that identification with a few major concepts. He believed in a God. He believed in judgment and punishment, and some sort of peace in the end for us all. Like everybody, Courtney had his own issues with the big man, or big lady. On the topic of omnipotence, he wrote, "If there is a puppet master, I am his missing string." I found that sort of dark, but he still prayed for some things. The message delivered by his bedside in the dark of night were to no one in particular. Each offering began with something like, "I don't know if anybody is listening, but," because it felt safer that way. Easier not to damn yourself with one if you got a chance with another. He prayed for his family to talk to him again. He prayed for acceptance. He prayed for his little sister's health, and another promotion, and better medication, and less makeup. But most of all, he asked for something most may be able to understand. He prayed for enough money to make his girlfriend a wife and start a life. In the second week of our study, things seemed to be heading in the right direction. A late-night conversation in the bedroom with Samantha broached the topic of marriage. His little sister Sarah texted often and claimed she felt fine. The course of his career continued to trend upwards, and bonus season claimed another happy participant. However, we began to notice similar symptoms the Tuesday after subject 002 went missing. Courtney's mother called that morning. The conversation started pleasant enough. She talked about herself mostly, the gossip at the library, favorite television shows, the usual. However, the topic eventually led to where it always did, her father's drinking problem. Dad must have heard that last part when he walked by. He offered one soul-crushing bit of advice into the receiver while Mom tried to escape the room. "Tell my little girl I said hello." Tom and I were both in the office at that time. The results of that single sentence were almost too horrible to bear. Courtney was in his car and approaching a bridge. The phone line disconnected, but he still screamed into it anyway. "Mum, Dad, that's it? You have nothing fucking else to say to me? Well, did you even fucking call me? Why do you do this to me?" The line beeped without sympathy. Something inside the poor man's eyes looked dead inside. It didn't require 720 pixel video inside the dash cam to properly characterize the look of defeat and utter anguish. I wanted to help him, but as always, there was no time. Plus, the rules of the God Experiment forbade interaction. Tommy looked ready to make an exception when Courtney pulled over and got out of the car. We switched cameras. Our participant stood on the narrow sidewalk and stared into the distance for a couple of minutes. Then he walked forward. Fog had started to pour in at that altitude. Rain had drifted in and out of the area all evening. Quietly, Courtney began to whisper one line on loop, just like all the others. "I am your missing string. I am. I'm your missing string. I am your missing string. I am your missing string." Tommy appeared really worried at that moment. He grabbed his cell phone and furiously fumbled a text to a number I did not recognize. Then he reached over and paused my video and instead pointed to an opposite monitor. Camera 4 showed the inside of the car. "What the hell is that?" he asked. It was impossible to see any features, but one fact seemed clear. A black shape sat very still in the back seat, at about medium height. After a few moments, the door opened beside it, and something exited in the opposite direction. We frantically adjusted the cameras to get a view, but there was no one else in sight. I resumed the video and checked on Courtney. He dangled carelessly off a steel support beam as I repeated my favorite slew of curses. The cold, hard ground several hundred feet below did not seem to be worrying to anybody but Tom and me. "Where do all the missing strings go?" Courtney asked our audio feed. Then he slipped off his shirt. He unattached the microphone. He finished one final sachet around the pole. Then, Subject 003 took a dramatic swan dive into the below. I still wonder about his question. I don't think anybody really knows. Part 4. Michelle was a transgender female who never quite adjusted to the cameras in her home. The fact alone made her much smarter than the rest. It's an unmistakable and itching feeling to be watched. Some people can recognize it better than others. The sensation can creep through your guts like a virus. It makes all those little hairs on your neck stand on end. Survival instincts implore human beings to seek shelter in these situations. It is always best to avoid the eyes of the hunter. But what if there is no way to be sure of safety? What if the lion has eyes in every corner of the jungle? Subject 004's survey indicated a hermit-like behavior. She had few family and friends. Her employer was an online blog that allowed employees to work from home. The topics of conversation for this site were nothing short of the usual dog shit you see in the National Enquirer and similar publications. Popular headlines included, "Woman marries alien, Bigfoot kept lumberjack as love slave," and more of the usual attention-seeking crap. The more absurd, the better. Michelle had been with the company for nearly 10 years. Her articles on conspiracy theories built a reputation that stretched across the country. Nevertheless, a layoff at corporate headquarters claimed her job in the second week of our study. As with our past participants, our video caught all the gory details. Our subject cried in bed for days. She did not leave her apartment for a week. Doctor appointments stayed canceled. Groceries were delivered to the house. And the few remaining friends offered nothing outside a few half-hearted text messages. So it goes. Michelle pursued the employment market relentlessly. Personally, I thought this indicated a willingness to take life more seriously. The resume compiled online looked impressive to my untrained eyes. She called and begged several other companies that claimed to be hiring. She filled out 1 million applications online, but I suppose the job market is tough for the type of person who once wrote that her landlord is a lizard. Most newspapers insisted on more serious experience. A few fellow blog sites openly laughed during interviews on the phone. The windfalls of hope and repeated disappointment became tough to watch. All of these factors added up left Michelle at home, all day, alone. She turned to alcohol somewhere around the 3rd week. Tommy blamed the strange behavior that followed on her excessive drinking. I remained unconvinced. The warning signs that I had come to identify seemed to be repeating themselves in Subject 004. One hungover morning, Michelle moved a chair into a blind spot in the kitchen. She sat there for 4 hours. The entire apartment stayed quiet during this time. When Michelle emerged, she seemed suspicious of everything from the cat to her own shadow. She searched the apartment endlessly for something, and that made us worry. During setup, Tom etched one of our cameras into the wood of her nightstand. Sure enough, she found it after tearing the whole room apart. That revelation certainly affected our test results, but as always, our responsibility stayed the same. Interference in correction did not present itself as an option. We were only observers. The camera became a prop in Michelle's bout of self-destruction. She carried that and a bottle of Jack Daniels everywhere. She talked both as if live streaming. Most of the messages were innocent and similar to nonsense she used to peddle for a living. Reporting live from the kitchen. Water has turned a mysterious dark brown color. Back to you, Doc. Reporting from the bedroom. Something is scratching underneath my floor. Can you guys hear that? Reporting from the den. Someone is outside my door. Is that one of you? Nothing I saw or heard on screen confirmed her theories. However, my concerns started to get more serious when Michelle refused to sleep. 2 days without rest turned to 3, and 4, and 5. Her behavior became manic. On several occasions, I caught her staring at the walls for hours at a time. Soon enough, Michelle found the remaining cameras. She took to hiding in blind spots and made it impossible for me to see her after that. The frequency and length of the live streams radically decreased. I hope that wherever she went, Michelle finally found some sleep. The apartment was always very quiet during that time. There were no other voices inside. One morning, many days later, someone knocked at the apartment door. Michelle had not been outside in 2 weeks. Tom snored so loud in the lab that I almost missed it. The knock started out quiet and unassuming. After a few unanswered raps, it grew more aggressive, until it soon became an absolute pounding that stirred my colleague from his sleep and caused Michelle to sprint into my line of sight in a panic. Do you guys hear it now? We did. What do I do? I had no idea. Tom pulled out his phone again. He had a block on the device that obscured my vision from the side. I asked him angrily about the text messages. He started to answer me just as subject 004 walked over to the door. Shit, she cannot answer that door, he muttered instead. Michelle could not hear us. She looked through the peephole neurotically. Then she shrugged her shoulders, caught a quick nervous breath, and unlocked the chain. Why don't we have visibility in that hallway? I asked, fearing the answer. It came a second later. Gunfire erupted into our headphones. A bullet caught subject 004 on the head. I knew immediately that our Michelle was dead. She did not even have time to scream. Tom pulled the plug from every computer, monitor, and power grid in the lab. Video and audio disappeared in kind. He fired off a few more rapid-fire messages. In a few short moments, the God experiment fell completely offline. His next words removed any doubt in my mind. We have to help the remaining subjects. We are running out of time.